Hi guys. So this is going to be an opinion video, and I just want to get your opinion as well. But I find it personally just so off right now. I don't want to say times are tough, but times do feel tougher than normal. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one out there. So definitely let me know if you're also going through it. And I'm not talking about me personally, but I'm definitely seeing it in the people around me. I'm seeing it in like all the stories that I'm hearing and just the energy in general. So why are things so tough right now? Or why does everything feel so off? I'm going to give you my insight and my opinion that I have. And if you have a different explanation, pop it below. But I'm going to start off with this. So we are currently in the last days of 2023 while I'm recording this, meaning we're dealing with some really major shifts. So we're having a Mercury retrograde right now. We're also approaching a full moon around Christmas, which Christmas is the time the worst childhood wounds tend to come up, which I'll discuss more at the end of this video. And in addition to that, the world is still a little bit upside down, right? And so we started this year off on a very strong note, I think. Well, it depends on how you look at it, but the numerology was all there. So we have this powerful year ahead. It was a numerology of 7. If you go with the 7 number, not the 5 number, which you could have also gone with the 5 number. But according to the 7 number, this was supposed to be one of the most spiritually inclined years ever. Well, I do personally think it has been. I personally have gotten so much out of it, and I feel just my spirit and my soul has changed so much over this past year in a way I can't even describe how. And I do think there were certain components to it that were very, very insightful. The last 2 months, ever since October rolled in, just felt completely out of it, completely whack out of it. And so I do think, the first few months were okay, or the first half a year was perfectly fine, but somehow something changed and shifted. And yeah, so the year rolled in, we had this powerful stuff ahead, this powerful potential ahead. And of course, it always feels amazing, right? And that's what we're about to have in the next year. That's to come as well. But then in October, this entire conflict came about and this entire war mentality, which is not the first time it's happened, but somehow it really did a number on a lot of people. And this entire separation mentality that we've already been in for so long, since 2016 here in the US, but for sure 2020 worldwide, I feel it just really tore people apart and tore opinions apart. In addition, I can't help but wonder what timeline we're really on right now. So we've been in this complete world disaster since March 2020, which is almost 4 years. And it shows, it really does show. Like, people have lost their mind. They're mentally not the same that they were 4 years ago. Financially, people have done worse on the most part, especially if you go to all these other countries like the third world countries and everything, where people really were struggling during that time. And yeah, even everywhere, even here in the first world, it's just not the same. Makes me personally wonder, because there were all these other timelines others are talking about. Did they want to pull off this sham before 2020? Let's just say 2016, 2017. Would our world look different now? Or what if they had pulled this off in 2020 or even later, 2024? What would it really look like right now? But we will never know, because the timeline we're on right now is whatever you're finding yourself on whenever you're watching this video. And so that's another component to it. The last 4 years being absolute hell for some people, not always, but to a certain degree. Yeah, it's been very different. I think everyone's life's changed, hasn't it? Like, especially, I mean, wherever you go, whatever you look at. So currently, right now, in addition to all of that, we had one of the strangest October 31st ever. I've never seen so much dark energy being called in ever, in the years before, in the decade before, than during this particular Halloween. I don't know why. I don't know if it's going to get worse, but I just know people had it really bad. The people who were energetically attuned to it, who could feel it, you could feel something around that time. And I personally talked about it extensively. and other private videos and all of that, but you could feel it. There's portals were opened up, some really dark stuff happened. People were extremely sick during that time. And I personally know someone who was just flat out in bed for like 2 weeks straight. So yeah, it's definitely had an impact. And I also believe right now what we're dealing with is a lot of more portals being opened up, of course, for Christmas, but also finding ourselves in this wormhole reality. What I recently saw, it was the strangest thing ever. I was kind of just looking at this tunnel of light because I'm trying to figure out what's really this tunnel of light. Is there anything else there, like a tunnel of darkness or whatever? But just looking at this tunnel of light, which is the one that people usually do when they exit this reality, when they get sucked back into this reincarnation trap. I have this video on it. You just watch it. It has like thousands of views at this point. So looking at this tunnel of light, just going through all these other wormholes in regards to it, there were several tunnels. There wasn't just one tunnel of light. There were like millions of them. And it felt like they were all leading to these different realities somehow, and some were leading to nothing. So I want to say it's a wormhole, for a lack of a better world. If I were to envision a wormhole, that's what it would look like to me. Literally something where it sucks you in and it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't lead anywhere. So I think we're dealing with several tunnels of light. I just want to point that out too, but maybe I'll make a different video on it. And I feel that's really what's opening up right now as well. Why? Not sure. I'm not sure if it still has to do with this Lionsgate portal disaster and so many people just really adhering to all the Illuminati practices that happened during that time. Hawaii happened right after that, which was a complete disaster. Or if it really has to do just with their magic powers becoming more powerful right now, because more people are into the new age and more people are participating in all these rituals and ceremonies and whatever. Or if it's a mix between the new age and religion, or if it's just a mix between the past 4 years really doing a number on everyone's energy and them just doing all of this somehow in the underground. I don't know. I mean, I think it's not hard to find out, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to say I'm not 100% sure what it's probably just a mix of everything. So we're currently in the last retrograde of the year. We started this year off with a retrograde. Just seeing this from a purely retrograde perspective, it probably was not the smartest thing energetically to start the year off with a retrograde. It could have made everyone feel like we're in a continuous loop and a continuous retrograde too. I know that's not the case for everyone, but I do know for some people that might be the case. What I also have to say is technology has been really iffy and really off this entire year. And so even when there was not a retrograde, I find myself with weird camera issues or weird other things happening. We're using technology so much at this point where I was like, oh, that is so strange. So we started this year off with a retrograde. We are currently in a retrograde, which I don't even think is as bad as some other ones were, but I do have to say the pre-shadow and post-shadow periods of these retrogrades are becoming stronger and almost more difficult than the actual retrograde. And so what I have noticed that the pre-shadow to this retrograde, which is basically 1 or 2 weeks before this one happened, was almost worse communication-wise than the retrograde itself. But I think it's probably going to depend on you, how you see it that way. Maybe for you, it doesn't even really have an impact, but I do think it has an impact on quite a few people. And so if this retrograde is supposed to end around January 1st, the post shadow might go up until January 20th in this case, not just 1.5 weeks later, because I think they're becoming longer and stronger and that they're having their own impact in and of itself. So just brace yourself in regards to that. And I do think retrogrades are impacting people the same way that Mars, that goes through certain cycles, like the Martian energy can impact people. Yeah, you can probably say that about any planet like Jupiter and Venus too. I know the Venus retrograde also had an impact on certain people, but Mars specifically, I just remember back in July 2020 when we were dealing with all these protests and the war energy, you could really feel it. And especially here where I was, people were really aggressive. They were going in this combative mood, and all these things happened here. So I do think Mars has a major impact, similar to Mercury having a major impact. But that is just a little bit of like astrology. that I personally don't believe very strongly in that, but I do think certain cycles can impact us to a larger degree. Now, another thing that is coming right now as I'm recording this is Christmas. So Christmas is the X, right? The X, you know, trying to erase everything. Also, the X has to do with Illuminati. So Xmas is bringing up a whole bunch of Christmas wounds for everyone. If you think Christmas is amazing and great, you're going to be one of the very few people, I want to say 1% of people or 2% of people. The majority of people have an issue with Christmas. Whether or not that's consciously, subconsciously, you're not fully aware of it, it doesn't even matter. But Christmas can be the toughest time for almost everyone out there because it brings up everything. It brings up so many childhood wounds. It brings up major things for so many people, like expectations that are never met, people just being nasty to each other, people just having this here and then you're kind of down, you know, so expectations are here, this happens, someone gets their feathers ruffled, or it's supposed to be this way because the neighbors do it that way, the relatives do it that way, or no, it's supposed to be perfect, it's supposed to be do this, do that. So it's all these things that are coming together for Christmas, where you will hear right after Christmas, you will hear the worst news ever, you know, people stabbing each other in the backs, or people just kind of erasing each other's families in the worst case scenario, which I already discussed in a video like 2 years ago, where literally, wow, yeah, Christmas wounds are coming up for people. You know, it's no coincidence that some of the worst things happen within people's friendship circles or family circles during this time of year due to that reason. It's a similar pressure around Thanksgiving, especially here in the US, but for some reason, Christmas really brings out a lot. And I do think it has to do with all of these rituals being called in by the Matrix controllers, by the Illuminati too, which I discussed in a different video, where how the color red ties into that and what it really symbolizes, and how if you even go to like midnight mass or church mass, you can see all the symbols there. But I don't want to make it the main focus of this video. I want to keep it on the shorter side. So why are things so tough right now? I think it's a mix of things. I personally also know of some people who lost someone who passed away during this time. I feel it started from Halloween and on, you know, and I just cannot imagine the grief right now during this time of year, which is supposed to be one of the happier times of years, where people come together, they want to be in a family, they want to gather, they want to celebrate, and you lost a significant member of your family or friend circle. So the grief that must go with that, really almost not bearable. And so I do think there are these different expressions that people are going through. So there's this individual grief that people might experience, but then there's also this collective grief that a lot of people are going through and feeling. And another thing, which I forgot to put in the other video, was that it probably doesn't help that we're going to have a full moon around Christmas. So that's going to be around December 26th, which is right after. Even if you live in a country, let's just say you're in an Arab country or an Asian country where you do not have Christmas at all, you're still influenced by it to a certain degree. You're influenced by all the portals that being opened up during it. You're also influenced by Boxing Day, which, what a strange way to call December 26th, isn't it? Like in certain countries, December 26th is actually still a Christmas day. Especially where I come from, you know, we have like 2 days of Christmas, and then in other cultures you had up to 12 days of Christmas. But you know, just lo and behold, so Boxing Days in almost every country, meaning that's where you have all the deals on merchandise and everything. So yeah, you're going to be influenced in a certain way or another. And even in those countries, like even in Arab countries or Asian countries, you still have holiday lights or Christmas decorations up in public areas. So I do think at this point, the entire world is influenced by it to one degree or another. Let me close this video off by saying, you know, I think we're all in this together. And if you're going through it, you're not alone. Comment below if you want to add anything. If you feel amazing during this time of year, if you really feel like your life is going better than ever before, comment below as well. We can really use that positivity. And I personally have been dealing with a lot too. You know, I've had like 3 weeks of sleep deprivation behind me due to my own personal circumstances, which I'll discuss in another video. I've had other things happening. Like I said, close friends around me have been really going through it. And I know we're not alone at all. I know there's something going on right now. I do think energetically there's a strong component of all the portals and wormholes that are just getting stronger and stronger, in addition to what could be happening on a planetary level too. But that's not just the only thing that's going on. So I hope this kind of helps you. And I hope you have a wonderful time ahead. Talk to you very soon. Until then, take care.